years, of omission or commission or mistakes, and that's why the nation is where it is today. But we have to agree, or we have to say what is factual. One of the things which is truth is that many economies in the world have registered a negative or have shrunk. The economies have shrunk. And it is true that the Kenya economy has grown by 5.4%. That's a fact. It is true that the inflation of this country last year was 9.2. At the moment, it's 6.8. This is as a result of the policies which this government has managed to make. It is also true that this nation gifted itself a very expensive constitution come in the year 2010. A constitution which must be financed, a constitution which was not costed. We did not ask ourselves what is the cost of running this constitution. And because we gifted ourselves such an expensive constitution, a constitution which has 47 senators, 47 women reps, 290 members of parliament, 1,425 or 50 MCAs, running one governor in an office for a year, it takes a lot of money. 47 deputy governors. We gifted ourselves as Kenya such an expensive constitution.
Is the problem the constitution, or?
I'm not saying it's a problem,
yep.
but we have to look for ways of financing.
Yeah.
Because
those elected leaders,
in the previous government, Moi Kibaki government, we didn't have such an expensive constitution. Now, Kenya Kwanza government made a decision to lower the amount of domestic borrowing. And that's why banks in Kenya are not making money as much as they used to make. Because in the previous administration, domestic borrowing was a huge part of their way of doing things, domestic and external borrowing. President William Ruto came into office and said, we have to lower the borrowing rate domestically and also externally. Now, banks make money from the interest they charge from people who are borrowing the money they have. Unfortunately, the previous administration, and of course I know Churchill will say, is Churchill? Yes. We will say that we were borrowing. William Ruto was part of that government. Yeah. But when you are president, and for those who have been close to power, you realize that when whoever is the president has a lot of power in this country, not only in this country, but in major part of the president, major part of the world. Now, the decision to borrow domestically, of course, the interest rates, and this was motivated because some of these who are in office and banks and directors in shareholders in quite a number of banks, Rockery. So we are expecting banks not to make as much profit as they used to make because this government is not borrowing much in these banks. Okay. That's number one.
You'll proceed your point number two, Honorable Ruku, just on account of accountability and clarity. First, the head of state does not practice in Kenya under our current dispensation untrammeled power because he has agencies that there are agencies under this constitution that also undertake other functions. Therefore, power is largely devolved and the president is subject to accountability and audit. Second, you talked about the question of expensive constitution, and largely you have talked about the elected leaders, be it at the county level or at the national level. Is our problem paying or financing the leadership that we have in the country, or we have other economic problems that the leadership current, the previous ones, and going forward, even the future leaderships in this country must address?
You need to check on the recurrent expenditure of the government.
How much is?
If you compare that the amount of money we get, or the revenues we raise as a nation, the amount of money we pay for our debts out of the money we get, and the amount of money we use for our recurrent expenditure and what is left for developmental projects is almost zero for the government to implement any development project. So to finance education, to finance health, other sector, to pay our civil service, to pay the judiciary, which is a independent arm of government, to pay the legislature, which is a independent arm of government, the executive, the recurrent expenditure of this country is huge. Such that
how much in estimate, probably, if you can figure out a number?
Out of all the amount of money, revenue raised by the nation, by the country, once we pay our debt and we pay the recurrent expenditure, I think we are left with almost less than 0.5.
Okay, and this is the interesting bit, Honorable Ruku.
That is when you say, when you're talking about 10, so it's just get 10.
So it's a small
get 10,
part of it.
8 shilling goes to payment of external debts and internal debts. Then we are left with our expenditure, where we almost spend everything left, and whatever is left for to implement development project is almost negligible. Okay,
and Honorable Ruku, this is the interesting bit, because it's coming down to policy and the
these are decisions which the president and his government and some of us who are supporting this administration, we have to make some of very difficult decisions on how we are going to get ourselves out of such kind of a hole.
Away from the difficult decisions, Honorable Ruku, because this is where responsibility lies at your doorstep as a member of parliament, because look, in 2016, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission said we lose a third of our budget to corruption. That was corroborated by Chief Justice David Kenani Maraga, emeritus now, in 2019, when he addressed a gathering on anti-corruption summit at the Bomas of Kenya. That again further corroborated by President Uhuru Kenyatta, who said we lose 2 billion Kenya shillings a day in January 2021. This comes to about 720 billion Kenya shillings a year. That's if you address the cost of corruption. How willing are you as a parliamentarian? Are you going to support that? Second, when this comes against the backdrop of a bill that you have sponsored in Parliament, which according to the eyes of Kenyans is going to even further necessitate corruption, or even the corrupt, encourage the corrupt to continue stealing from the Kenyan public. You have sponsored a bill that largely, according to the ACC, is largely going to erode even some of the gains that you have made, and you are a parliamentarian. What level of responsibility do you have?
I have sponsored several bills in the Assembly, the National Assembly. One of them is the bill on Assembly and Demonstration Bill 2023, because there is huge cost to the economy which comes up with the issues to do with the demonstrations, violent demonstrations, and armed demonstrations. And Article 37 of our Constitution is clear, says that yes, Kenyans are free to do demonstration, but it put two conditions. There must be free, and violent demonstration and unarmed demonstration. So we have to put into effect Article 37 of our Constitution, and we can only do that through a registration, through an act of Parliament. Number two, Article 45 of the Section 45 of Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act 2003, which is a pre-2010 Constitution, Act, says that gives very vague ones which are not defined at the preamble of the Act, and which many lawyers have argued in court of law, and many corrupt Kenyans have escaped scot-free. They are enjoying corrupt monies in the Republic because of this Section 45, 2B and C, because of saying carelessly, willfully, ones which cannot be defined and which are not defined in the Act. So for us to be able to nab those who are corrupt, for us to be able to prosecute, for the prosecution to be able to argue its case successfully in the court of law. And I can give you examples of the number of cases which have not been successfully prosecuted because of this section. Ask Anti-Corruption and Anti-Corruption Authority the report of the number of corruption cases they get every single year, more than 5,000 cases. How many are prosecuted successfully? How many are acquitted? Are in thousands. Why are they acquitted?
Well, courts of law are courts of evidence.
Sorry?
Courts of law are courts of evidence.
Yeah. It's because the prosecution cannot be able to provide evidence on how this person was careless.
What do you intend to correct then? What do you intend to correct in that regard?
By ensuring that we align the economic, this act with PPRA Act and with Public Procurement and Disposal, Asset Disposal Act of 2015. Properly.
Okay.
So you'll find that these two acts, which are in procurement, are post Constitution 2010.
Okay.
So it is properly aligned with the Constitution. But this one of 2003 is not properly aligned with the Constitution. And once you injure one of the sections of the new Constitution 2010, then you fall flat in the front of our justice administration system.
Okay.
So we have to align some of these laws. And that's why I'm saying any member of parliament who is not playing his part properly in terms of giving proper, well-thought registrations, so that which can be used by our courts to nab those who are corrupt, then we are doing injustice to this nation.
Well, you aim to help the EACC, but the Commission says they are concerned about your bill and that of Peter Opondo Kaluma. Coming to you,
you know why the EACC has. How many cases have EACC prosecuted successfully of economic crimes? Forget about the small cases which, running to go and arrest a police officer on the road. Why are we not prosecuting those who have interfered with the prices of coffee, of milk, of major industries, distorting prices in our country,
as a parliamentarian,
families,
as a parliamentarian, it's prerogative that, and I'm sure you understand this, that whatever the AACC gathers and the prosecution process takes place in a court of law and within a defined criminal justice system, and our courts of law are courts of evidence and the threshold to which they dispense justice, upon which after going through the presentations made in court.